It was the sitcom that defined an era filled with laughter and Southern sass. But behind the scenes of Mama's Family Time was ticking away. Where are Thelma Vint and the rest of the gang today? Some have found peace in retirement, while others faced devastating health battles that will leave you in tears. Join us as we uncover the bittersweet truth about the iconic stars who shaped our childhoods. Vicki Lawrence as Thelma Harper. Born on March 26, 1949 in Inglewood, California, the actress and comedian first brought Thelma to life in sketches on The Carol Burnett Show before starring in the spin-off. At the age of 33, Lawrence's portrayal of the fiery and opinionated matriarch on Mama's Family became a cultural touchstone, offering a primetime depiction of a working-class Southern family that was both hilarious and deeply relatable. For 6 seasons across its network and syndicated runs, her impeccable comedic timing and memorable silver-haired look defined a character that remains one of television's most iconic comedic figures. Despite the character's abrasive, elderly, and cranky nature, Vicki Lawrence was youthful, vibrant, and described by those who knew her as sweet-tempered and the polar opposite of Thelma Harper. This physical and personality contrast was a significant part of her personal journey, as she had to artificially age herself with heavy makeup and padding to play the deliberately harsh grandmother. Her career was also marked by the struggle of being typecast, which made it difficult for her to find varied acting work outside of the heavy shadow Mama cast. The run of Mama's Family itself brought a professional sting. The show was unexpectedly canceled by NBC after just 2 seasons in 1984, forcing a stressful hiatus before it was successfully revived in first-run syndication 2 years later. Vicki Lawrence continued to work in television and stage for decades, eventually leaning into her iconic typecasting by touring the country for years with her popular stand-up act, Vicki Lawrence and Mama, a Two-Woman Show. She also hosted her own daytime talk show in the early 90s, made memorable guest appearances on series like Hannah Montana, and returned to sitcom stardom in the 2018 Fox series, The Cool Kids. Personally, she enjoyed a long marriage to Hollywood makeup artist Al Schultz, whom she married in 1974 and had 2 children with until his passing in June 2024. As of 2026, at the age of 77, she is alive and continues to be celebrated as a comedy legend, preserving the enduring legacy of the character she made famous. Rue McClanahan as Aunt Fran Crowley. Born on February 21, 1934 in Healdton, Oklahoma, the actress brought a wealth of comedic experience to her television career. At the age of 48, McClanahan took on the role of Aunt Fran Crowley when Mama's Family premiered in 1983. Portraying the neurotic, uptight, and unmarried sister of Thelma Mama Harper, Fran added a distinct flavor of anxious pretension to the boisterous Southern household. As a frustrated local journalist residing under Mama's roof, her prudish demeanor and constant exasperation made her a memorable comedic foil, contributing heavily to the early success and cultural footprint of the beloved sitcom. Despite playing a repressed, pearl-clutching spinster with virtually no romantic prospects, Rue McClanahan's real personality was a stark contrast to Aunt Fran. She was vibrant, outgoing, famously uninhibited, and married 6 times over the course of her life. During her stint on Mama's Family, she experienced professional struggles, finding the role somewhat restrictive and one-dimensional, as Fran was constantly the punchline for the family's relentless insults. Her run on the sitcom came to an unceremonious halt. After NBC abruptly canceled the series following its 2nd season, McClanahan was released from her contract. When the show was later successfully revived for first-run syndication, she was already committed to another project and unavailable to return, resulting in her character being casually killed off-screen by choking on a toothpick. Fortunately, McClanahan quickly rebounded from her departure, landing her legendary Emmy-winning role as the unapologetically man-crazed Blanche Devereaux on the massive hit The Golden Girls, which ran from 1985 to 1992. She remained a television fixture for decades, starring in the spin-off The Golden Palace, appearing in Sordid Lives, and publishing her witty 2007 autobiography, My First Five Husbands and the Ones Who Got Away. In her later years, she faced a series of severe health struggles, surviving breast cancer in 1997 and undergoing quadruple bypass surgery in 2009. Rue McClanahan passed away at a hospital in New York City on June 3, 2010, at the age of 76 from a massive stroke caused by a brain hemorrhage. Her death was deeply mourned by generations of fans worldwide, and notably left Betty White as the sole surviving core cast member of the Golden Girls. Ken Berry as Vinton Harper. Born on November 3, 1933, the Moline, Illinois native first brought his immense song and dance talents to television, before landing his iconic role on Mama's Family in 1983. At the age of 49, Berry's portrayal of the affable, dim-witted, and clumsy locksmith Vinton "Vint" Harper became a cultural staple of 1980s television. As the lovable man-child living in his mother's basement, his masterful physical comedy and boyish charm provided a hilarious, light-hearted contrast to the show's abrasive family dynamics, helping the series remain one of the era's most beloved sitcoms. Despite the character's bumbling, slow-witted, and uncoordinated nature, Ken Berry was an incredibly sharp, disciplined, and physically gifted entertainer. Frequently compared to Fred Astaire, he was a highly trained dancer-singer and an avid motorcycle enthusiast, making his real personality vastly different from the naive Vinton. This contrast highlighted his acting abilities, though his career was marked by the struggle of being typecast. He was repeatedly pigeonholed into playing wholesome, boyish characters. This typecasting made it difficult for him to find diverse work, as television shifted toward edgier urban formats in his later career. Berry also endured the professional sting of abrupt show cancellations. He suffered through the infamous 1971 Rural Purge, when his hit show, Mayberry RFD, was unceremoniously axed, despite high ratings, and Mama's Family itself was initially canceled by NBC in 1984 before being resurrected in first-run syndication 2 years later. In his later years, Ken Berry largely stepped away from the Hollywood spotlight to live a quiet life, occasionally taking on stage roles in musicals. He remained close friends with his former wife, actress Jackie Joseph, with whom he had adopted 2 children, and spent his final 24 years with his devoted partner, Susie Walsh. Tragically, Berry experienced personal heartbreak when his son John passed away from brain cancer in 2016. Berry himself passed away at a hospital in Burbank, California, on December 1, 2018, at the age of 85 from heart complications. His death was followed by an outpouring of love from his former castmates and fans, though his family suffered another tragic loss when his daughter Jennifer passed away in 2020. As of 2026, Berry's comedic legacy remains vividly alive in syndication, immortalizing a talented performer whose gentle spirit continues to entertain new generations. Beverly Archer as Eola Boylan. Born on July 19, 1948 in Oak Park, Illinois, Beverly Archer joined the cast of the beloved 1983 sitcom Mama's Family when the series was revived for syndication in 1986. At the age of 38, Archer's portrayal of Eola Boylan, the prissy, fastidious, and excessively cheerful neighbor to Thelma Harper, became an instant hit with audiences. Armed with her signature knock-knock entrance conservative pink outfits and an endless supply of bizarre handmade crafts and cozies, Eola served as the perfect comedic foil to the brash mama. For 4 seasons, Archer's impeccable comedic timing helped solidify the character as one of television's most memorable and beloved quirky neighbors, contributing significantly to the show's enduring cultural footprint. Despite her memorable turn as a sheltered traditional spinster, Beverly Archer's real personality was remarkably different from her famous character. She was an independent, free-spirited creative with a sharp, cynical wit. This contrast made playing the overly sweet and prudish Eola a fun but distinctly challenging acting exercise. Professionally, Archer faced significant hurdles regarding typecasting. Because of her tall frame and distinct appearance, Hollywood largely refused to see her as anything other than a comedic caricature. She found herself continuously pigeonholed into playing strict teachers, repressed librarians, and rigid authority figures on shows like Major Dad and Married with Children. While she accepted her place in comedy to make a living, she privately lamented the lack of dramatic or varied opportunities available to her, a career frustration that ultimately influenced her decision to step away from the entertainment industry entirely. Following her final television appearances, Archer decided she had had enough of Hollywood's limitations and officially retired from acting in 2002. She shifted her focus away from the screen to pursue her genuine passions, which included traveling the world, writing, and dedicating herself to sculpting clay figures. She relocated to Santa Monica, California, where she embraced a deeply private life alongside her husband, Robert Bernard, whom she married in 1976. In 2012, her quiet retirement was briefly interrupted when she had to publicly debunk a widespread internet hoax that falsely claimed she had died, assuring fans she was very much alive and well. As of 2026, at the age of 77, Beverly Archer remains happily retired from the spotlight, spending her days creating art and enjoying her peaceful life by the coast. Dorothy Lyman as Naomi Oates Harper. Born on April 18, 1947, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the talented actress had already won 2 Daytime Emmy Awards for her work on All My Children before bringing Naomi to life on Mama's Family. At the age of 35, Lyman's portrayal of the flirtatious, flashy dressing and perpetually optimistic daughter-in-law became a comedic highlight of the series. With her bright yellow hair and tacky fashion sense, Naomi provided the perfect foil to the grumpy traditional Thelma Harper. For 6 seasons, Lyman's brilliant comedic timing made the character an unforgettable and culturally enduring piece of 1980s television, representing a bold, colorful contrast to the rest of the Harper household. Despite her character's dim-witted, tacky, and submissive on-screen persona, Dorothy Lyman was fiercely intelligent, driven, and creatively ambitious, the polar opposite of Naomi Harper. This contrast showcased her impressive acting range, though she later faced the industry's tendency to typecast her based on the beloved comedic role. The journey of Mama's Family itself was fraught with professional hurdles. The show was abruptly canceled by NBC in 1984, after just 2 seasons, a disheartening setback that left the cast in limbo before the series was miraculously revived in first-run syndication 2 years later. As the years went on, Lyman also openly struggled with Hollywood's rampant ageism, finding that substantial acting roles for older women were scarce and often unrewarding, making it increasingly difficult to find fulfilling on-camera work. Dorothy Lyman eventually channeled her creative energy behind the camera, notably directing and producing 75 episodes of the hit 90s sitcom The Nanny, before leaving Hollywood in 2003 to buy a farm in upstate New York. As of 2026, at the age of 79, she remains an active and passionate artist. Although she spent years raising free-range chickens and enjoying farm life, she never truly stopped creating. She has written, directed, and produced various independent films and stage plays, including her documentary, Janet's Class, which explores the harsh realities of aging in the acting industry. She also occasionally returns to the screen for guest appearances in acclaimed series such as The Blacklist, The Girl from Plainville, and Law and Order Organized Crime, proving that her dedication to her craft has only deepened over time. Eric Brown as Vinton Buzz Harper Jr. Born on December 17, 1964, in New York City. New York, the young actor brought a youthful energy to the dysfunctional blue-collar Harper household. At the age of 18, Brown's portrayal of Vinton Buzz Harper Jr. contributed to the immense cultural impact of the sitcom, which originated from a beloved sketch on The Carol Burnett Show. As the typical, somewhat naive teenage grandson, Buzz helped ground the eccentric family's cross-generational dynamic, making the series a prime-time hit, known for its wacky costumes, sharp-tongued insults, and hilarious depiction of a Southern working-class family. Despite playing an unpolished teenager from a chaotic blue-collar family, Eric Brown was in reality a highly intellectual and academically driven individual, providing a stark contrast to the boisterous Harper clan. His acting career soon faced significant professional hardships, largely spurred by abrupt show cancellations and behind-the-scenes network changes. When NBC canceled Mama's Family in 1984, the show was eventually saved and revived for syndication, but Brown and his on-screen sister were suddenly written out of the series with barely a mention. This unexpected dismissal initiated a difficult period of struggling to find work in Hollywood. As acting jobs completely dried up, Brown moved to Monterey, California, and took a job at a local video store, experiencing the humbling and surreal reality of renting out movies to customers that he himself had starred in. Brown eventually left the entertainment industry entirely to pursue his academic and political passions. He earned a degree in political science from UC Berkeley, graduating Phi Beta Kappa, followed by a master's degree from Stanford University. He built a thriving career in communications, serving as a press secretary for a U.S. congresswoman, and later founding Brownbridge Strategies, a consulting firm dedicated to nonprofits and foundations. As of 2026, at the age of 61, he is a highly respected communications strategist who co-hosts a podcast and even bottles his own wine. He continues to reside in California, enjoying a private and fulfilling life with his wife, Shelley Janine Paver, whom he married in 1990, and their daughter, Maggie. Allan Kayser as Bubba Higgins. Born on December 18, 1963, in Littleton, Colorado, the actor first brought Bubba to life when the sitcom Mama's Family transitioned into first-run syndication in 1986. At the age of 22, Kayser's portrayal of the rambunctious tight jeans-wearing juvenile delinquent turned lovable grandson became a massive hit with viewers and turned him into a bona fide 1980s teen idol. His youthful energy provided a fresh comedic edge to the series, offering a stark contrast to his grumpy grandmother and helping to bring out her softer side. For 4 seasons, his charismatic presence and signature style defined a character that remains a memorable staple of 1980s television. Despite the character's rebellious, extroverted, and famously hormonal teenage persona, Allan Kayser was remarkably grounded and practical in real life, prioritizing stability over the chaotic Hollywood lifestyle. This contrast played a significant role in his post-sitcom journey. Rather than chasing fame at all costs, he recognized the limitations of the industry. His career was marked by the struggle of being typecast as the quintessential 80s teen heartthrob, which made it difficult for him to find substantial mainstream acting work after the show ended. Faced with the reality of the show's cancellation in 1990 and the dread of becoming a broke actor or a caricature of himself, he made the deliberate choice to step away from the Los Angeles spotlight to start a family in the Midwest. Allan Kayser has continued to lead a fulfilling, albeit much more private life away from Hollywood, taking on various regular jobs over the decades, including working on an assembly line selling Harley-Davidson motorcycles, and ultimately finding a long-term career as a mail carrier for the United States Postal Service in Missouri. He previously ran a performing arts academy with his first wife, Lori, and later married his second wife, Sarah, in 2014, raising a total of 4 children between his marriages. Although he primarily works outside the entertainment industry, he has sporadically appeared in independent films like House of Forbidden Secrets, 2013, and TNT Jackson, 2023, and he occasionally attends horror and pop culture fan conventions. As of 2026, at the age of 62, he remains happily settled in the Midwest, embracing his quiet, everyday life while still warmly acknowledging the enduring legacy of his time as Bubba Higgins. Karin Argoud as Sonia Harper. Born on November 8, 1960 in Seattle, Washington, the actress made her initial mark in Hollywood starring in an ABC after-school special before landing her most famous part. At the age of 22, Argoud took on the role of Sonia Harper in the NBC sitcom Mama's Family, when it premiered in 1983. Her portrayal of Vint Harper's bored, oblivious, and rebellious teenage daughter offered a hilariously realistic depiction of 1980s teenage angst. As the sloppy and combative granddaughter of the formidable Thelma "Mama" Harper, Sonia resonated with audiences as a relatable modern teen who perfectly contrasted with the eccentric, old-fashioned, and fiery dynamics of the Harper household, helping establish the show's early comedic rhythm. Despite playing a hopelessly unfocused and unmotivated slacker on screen, Karin Argoud was in reality a driven and hard-working young professional who was deeply committed to her craft. This contrast made playing the famously apathetic and difficult Sonia an amusing acting exercise, but her time on the hit sitcom would soon bring professional heartbreak. When NBC abruptly canceled Mama's Family after its second season in 1984, the cast's future was thrown into uncertainty. Although the show was successfully saved and revived for first-run syndication in 1986, producers decided to retool the series, writing Argoud and her on-screen brother out of the show entirely, with merely a brief mention that they had moved away. This sudden dismissal was a disheartening blow to the young actress, and she subsequently faced the struggle of being associated with her teen sitcom image, finding it extremely difficult to secure major starring roles in the years that followed her unceremonious exit. Following her departure from the Harper household, Argoud made sporadic guest appearances on television shows such as Nash Bridges and Renegade, but largely shifted her focus away from Hollywood to build a rich personal life. She married Kevin Morrissey, raised 2 daughters, and expanded her horizons by working as a freelance news journalist and authoring children's material. However, she never completely abandoned acting steadily, returning to the screen in later years with projects like the 2022 Hallmark original movie Love in the Limelight and the 2024 audio series A Mother's Battle. As of 2026, at the age of 65, she continues to pursue her creative passions both in and out of the entertainment industry, balancing her family life with her enduring love for performance and storytelling. Harvey Korman as Alistair Quince. Born on February 15, 1927 in Chicago, Illinois, the gifted comedian first brought Alistair Quince to life during The Family sketches on The Carol Burnett Show before continuing the role for the spin-off. Korman took on the persona of the stately tuxedo-clad host who introduced the tumultuous lives of the Harper family with a dry, scholarly wit. A direct parody of Alistair Cooke and the sophisticated introductions of masterpiece theater, Korman's portrayal of Alistair Quince became a cultural touchstone of television satire. Sitting in his wingback chair with a pipe or a book, he offered a hilariously refined contrast to the loud, lower-middle-class dysfunction that followed, cementing his legacy as a master of character acting. Despite the character's poise, intellectual confidence, and unshakable calm, Harvey Korman was remarkably different off-camera. In stark contrast to the dignified Alistair Quince, Korman was known by friends and colleagues to be deeply insecure and plagued by self-doubt, often finding it difficult to recognize his own immense talent. His professional journey was also fraught with significant hardships. The most profound professional sting occurred when he made the difficult choice to leave the safety of the Carol Burnett Show in 1977 to star in his own sitcom, The Harvey Korman Show. The series was abruptly canceled after only 5 episodes, a devastating blow that left him dealing with the regret of leaving a hit show and struggling to find steady leading work. Furthermore, while Alistair Quince guided audiences into Mama's Family, the sitcom faced its own cancellation by NBC in 1984 before its successful syndication revival. In his later years, Harvey Korman continued to work prominently in film and television, maintaining a legendary partnership with director Mel Brooks in movies like History of the World Part 1 and Dracula Dead and Loving It. He also famously toured the country for years in a highly successful live stage show alongside his longtime comedic foil Tim Conway and contributed extensive voiceover work to animated series. Korman passed away at the UCLA Medical Center in Los Angeles on May 29, 2008, at the age of 81 after suffering complications from a ruptured abdominal aortic aneurysm. His death led to a massive outpouring of grief from the entertainment world, with comedic giants like Carol Burnett and Mel Brooks publicly mourning the loss of a man widely considered one of the greatest sketch actors in television history. Carol Burnett as Eunice Higgins. Born on April 26, 1933, the San Antonio, Texas native had already made the character famous in variety show sketches before bringing her to the sitcom spin-off. At the age of 49, when Mama's Family premiered in 1983, Burnett's portrayal of the high-strung, constantly disappointed, and spectacularly dramatic Eunice Higgins became a comedic masterclass. Her ability to blend hilarious screeching meltdowns with an undercurrent of genuine tragedy made Eunice an iconic figure of American television, perfectly capturing the dysfunction and dashed dreams of a recognizable working-class family dynamic. In stark contrast to the bitter, selfish, and frequently explosive Eunice, Carol Burnett is widely celebrated in real life as one of the warmest, most gracious, and kindest individuals in show business. Despite her massive overall success, Burnett's journey during the Mama's Family era brought notable professional and personal hurdles. The sitcom initially faced a rocky road and was abruptly canceled by NBC in 1984 after only 2 seasons. When the show was later revived for first-run syndication, Burnett did not reprise her role on a regular basis. This professional separation was tied to a difficult personal hardship, her painful divorce from the show's executive producer Joe Hamilton, which complicated her involvement and permanently altered her professional connection to the beloved characters she had helped create. Carol Burnett continued to have a legendary career in television, film, and theater, earning numerous accolades including Emmys, Golden Globes, and the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor. She remained highly active well into her later years, taking on acclaimed dramatic and comedic roles in recent television projects like Better Call Saul and Palm Royale. As of 2026, at the age of 93, she is officially recognized as a living legend of comedy and remains happily married to her husband, Brian Miller. She continues to be a beloved elder stateswoman of the entertainment industry, celebrated for breaking glass ceilings for women in television while enjoying the enduring affection of audiences worldwide. Betty White as Ellen Jackson. Born on January 17, 1922 in Oak Park, Illinois, the television pioneer had originated the snooty character in sketch comedy before officially taking on the role in the 1983 spin-off. At the age of 61, White brought the delightfully pretentious and elitist Ellen Jackson to life on Mama's Family. Her portrayal of Mama Harper's self-centered daughter provided brilliant comedic friction, offering a hilarious depiction of familial dysfunction. Ellen's snobbish attitude toward her working-class relatives became a culturally recognizable touchstone of sitcom dynamics, perfectly showcasing White's impeccable comedic timing and undeniable versatility. Despite playing the haughty, status-obsessed, and emotionally cold Ellen Betty White, was universally beloved, famously warm-hearted, and a fiercely dedicated animal welfare advocate, widely considered the polar opposite of her prickly character. Professionally, White's path was not without its hurdles. She had to battle against being typecast early in her career as overly saccharine and innocent, finding it difficult at times to land roles with a biting comedic edge until she actively sought them out. She also navigated the turbulent, unforgiving nature of network television, enduring frustrating show cancellations like the abrupt end of the 1977 series The Betty White Show, which struggled with ratings and was axed after just 1 season. Even Mama's Family suffered a stinging cancellation by NBC in 1984, a disruption that ultimately led to White departing the series instead of returning for its later syndicated revival. Following her time as Ellen Jackson, White's career skyrocketed to legendary status as she joined the iconic cast of The Golden Girls, and decades later, she experienced a massive late-in-life resurgence with hits like Hot in Cleveland. She found the love of her life in game show host Alan Ludden, and though he passed away in 1981, she remained fiercely devoted to his memory and never remarried. Betty White passed away peacefully at her home in Los Angeles on December 31st, 2021, at the age of 99 from a cerebrovascular accident stroke she had suffered less than a week prior. Her death coming just weeks shy of her highly anticipated 100th birthday resulted in a massive global outpouring of grief and sparked the viral Betty White Challenge, a beautiful aftermath movement that raised tens of millions of dollars for animal rescues and shelters worldwide in her honor. Alan Oppenheimer as Mayor Alvin Tutwiler. Born on April 23, 1930, the New York City native first established himself as a highly dependable television character actor before stepping into the fictional town of Raytown. At the age of 52, Oppenheimer's portrayal of the pompous, self-important, and constantly exasperated Mayor Alvin Tutwiler became a hilarious highlight of the early seasons of Mama's Family, offering a pitch-perfect depiction of smarmy small-town politics. His character's comedic clashes with the brash Thelma Mama Harper provided some of the show's most memorable moments, cementing Tutwiler as a definitive archetype of the bureaucratic foil. Despite the character's arrogant and self-serving nature, Alan Oppenheimer was highly regarded as a warm, humble, and exceptionally gracious professional described by colleagues as the complete opposite of the exasperated politicians he so frequently played. This contrast showcased his deep versatility as he found playing rigid, pompous authority figures to be an amusing departure from his own genial personality. However, his career was marked by the professional struggle of being heavily typecast. His commanding presence and authoritative delivery meant he was constantly boxed into playing mayors, doctors, and scientists, which frequently frustrated his desire for more varied live-action roles. The abrupt network cancellation of Mama's Family by NBC in 1984 before its later syndication revival also brought a professional sting, prematurely ending his time in Raytown and pushing him to pivot his career focus significantly to maintain steady work. Alan Oppenheimer continued to work in television and film for decades, but he ultimately found his greatest legacy behind the microphone as one of the most prolific voice actors of his generation. He immortalized characters like the villainous Skeletor in He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Vanity Smurf in The Smurfs, and Falkor the Luck Dragon in the film The Never-Ending Story. Throughout the 1990s and 2000s, he remained a beloved figure in the animation community, continuing to lend his voice to projects well into his 80s and 90s, including a cameo in 2019's Toy Story 4. In his personal life, he married multiple times and experienced profound loss when his third wife, costume designer Mariana Elliott, passed away in 2003. As of 2026, at the age of 96, he is largely retired from acting, but remains a highly revered icon fondly remembered by fans for both his live-action comedic foils and his legendary contributions to animation. It's truly remarkable how a single living room in Raytown became a permanent home for so many of us. Watching the cast of Mama's Family evolve reminds us that while the years inevitably pass, the laughter they gifted us remains timeless. Which of these transformations surprised you the most, or which character do you miss seeing on your screen? Share your favorite memories in the comments below, and subscribe for more nostalgic journeys through television history.